So I'm going to take some of the concepts and ideas that you've heard from Joe and apply them in a slightly different way, but one which I hope will broaden the conversation into perhaps some other areas that we've not touched on so far. This is a presentation that we use a lot. It's effectively a journey we are going to be inviting you all to take with us. But before we start on this particular journey, I think it's fair to say that we need to stop for a second and make sure that we understand and see the world as Avaya in the same way that you all see and understand the world. And to do that, we're going to try and define the world, the modern world as we see it, in these four different areas. We're going to look at time to market. We're going to look at the notion of remote and flexible working. We're going to look at the notion of customer service and the expectations that we all have. And finally, we're going to touch on cloud. So those are the sort of four areas that I'd like to examine as part of this journey, this conversation that we're going to have. The time to market piece I don't think is unusual. Within enterprise organizations, regardless of your size, you typically hear two or three key things every time we stand up and talk to people, which is my business needs to be more agile, I need to do more with less. And the interesting one for me is I think simplicity is back on people's agenda. Right? And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that as we work our way through this deck. So simplicity is a new one perhaps, but I think it's important and it's very, very relevant. Think about changing working patterns. We might all think it's quite cool to hang out in Starbucks with our iPads and do email and do web conversations and chat and this, that, and the other, because it's what we're used to. There's a whole collection of people for whom that is just an alien concept. The notion that work isn't a place that you go to, but a thing that you do. For some organizations, whilst it's not difficult to grasp, and whilst the technology can actually deliver on that, it's HR and culture which are the two big challenges you typically have to overcome when you're looking at driving new ways of working or changing work and packing projects within your organizations. You know, we can all equip ourselves with iPads, we can all equip ourselves with smartphones. That's not the problem. The problem is there are some organizations for whom work is still a thing that they go to and not a thing that they do. And that cultural difference is the fundamental objection that we typically hear when people are trying to deploy new ways of working and changing work and patterns in their organizations. And that's an HR sell. So as an organization, I would want to have the opportunity to talk to HR people about the cultural and transformational processes that you need to go through just to make sure that your folks hanging out in Starbucks are actually doing, one, the right thing, but two, that they're actually comfortable doing it. Because for some people, this is incredibly hard to grasp and to concept. Thirdly, we're all consumers too. You know what a good customer experience looks and feels like. And chances are the smartphones and or the tablets that you carry around with you for your work life are exactly the same devices that you use in your personal life. So that very same device with gesture-based control, with applications that are intelligent and slim and delivered to a touch interface, that's how you interact with the world in your private, your personal, your consumer life, and in some cases, and in the more adventurous organizations, that's how your enterprise applications are also delivered to you on those same platforms. So the ubiquity is the technology. And I'd argue that innovation isn't screen size. It isn't whether you can clip a keyboard onto it or not. Innovation in the next 3 to 5 years is whether you'll wear it or not. And I'd suggest to you that the organizations that are driving the innovation agenda in tablets today might not be the organizations that drive the agenda as we move forward to the year 2017. Because part of the thing we're trying to do in this conversation is say, these are some of the fundamentals that you need to start thinking about now that puts your enterprise on an organization and a journey to what we think the world will look like in 2017. So innovation is not screen size and it's not a clip-on keyboard. Innovation might be IT that you wear. And that then will transform the way that you consume and that you interact with these different devices and services. But it's the way that we start to see the world shifting. And you can't have a conversation around any of this stuff today without talking about cloud. I think Joe's framed the conversation very well in terms of some of the ways in which you can build out cloud-based architectures and some of the things that you need to do to make them work. What I'm going to suggest is that there's also a very commercial element to that conversation. You know, we can show up and put it in your rack, 6 degrees rack, our rack. We can rack hardware up all day long. That's part of the conversation. The other part of the conversation is when you consume a cloud service, you do two things. You change from a capital-based expense budget to an operational-based expense budget. And two, you bring flexibility and agility into your business that you couldn't do before because you were tied to a monolithic software license. So if you're in retail and you need to flex up the number of people in your contact center for the 60 days and 60 days before and after Christmas, the cloud model allows you to dynamically bring that resource into your organization, or at least bring you the capability to support that resource in your organization, and then on February the 28th, get rid of it. Because you don't need the license anymore that supports the contact center function. So it brings agility into your business. December the 17th, 2010, snow hit the UK, right? We had about 1 meter of snow in London. How many of your contact center agents were able to get to work that day? What happened to your average handling time statistics? What happened to anything that you use in your contact center to nominally measure the way your business works? Any metric went through the roof. Because the same problem that I had in not being able to get 50 meters down my road was the same problem that any contact center agent had trying to get 50 meters down their road. So when you have seasonal problems that are weather-driven, a flexible IT infrastructure and a flexible working practice, when you marry those two things together, perhaps allows you to deliver a consistency in your service level without actually having to ask people to physically commute 20 miles, 50 miles, whatever the number might be. So cloud is highly transformational because of what it does to your infrastructure, and I think Joe's done an excellent job at explaining that. It changes your commercial aspect, and it gives you flexibility in terms of the way that you perhaps bring resources into your business. And we think as Avaya that if you want to take advantage of these 4 changes and these 4 forces that are acting on our businesses right now, we think you need a plan. And we have a plan. And like Joe has a 3-word acronym for getting to his plan, we too have one. And ours is the principles of consolidation, integration, and innovation. And what I'm going to spend some time doing now is walking you through why this is a logical plan for you to start to adopt, and some of the things that it does and some of the changes it drives as you actually work through this process with us. So let's start with consolidation. A couple of things about this chart. Firstly, top to bottom, you can see it says managing business process at the top, it says managing technology at the bottom. The question you are asking on that vertical axis is how connected are your business processes to the infrastructure which drives them? The nearer the bottom of the chart, the less connected they are. Left to right, can we deploy things that allow you to improve the productivity of employees in your organization, which is what happens when we move to the left-hand side of the screen? Can we just save money, which is what happens when we move to the right-hand side of the screen? So as we walk through this journey, you'll see that these various circles and these ideas that we have shift their position because it affects where we are on the journey, it affects our plan, and affects some of the things that we can see as a result. The circles represent ideas that we have of projects or actual actions that you can take in your organizations to drive a consolidated infrastructure. The larger the circle, the greater the impact. So the 2 biggest ones on here are migration to SIP. SIP not only in your wide area, but also in the core of your communications architecture. And then and server and application virtualization, which I think Joe's done an excellent job of describing what that looks like and how it behaves within your organization. And I'm going to come back to that a little bit later. SIP is interesting for a couple of reasons. One, because as a bits per minute technology, for those of you that care about that, it is typically at a lower cost than traditional TDM-based circuitry that you would use to bring telephony or video or any other technology into your organization, right? So day one has a lower operating and a lower running cost. The spin-off effect from SIP is what it allows you to do with applications that you've used CTI on historically as a way of bridging the gap between the computer and the telephone. And it's never been easy to do. It's always required you to go back to something and change something or add something because it's just messy and horrible. and the TDM world which telephones grew up with and the packet-based world that IP networks grew up with are fundamentally so different that we need to just put a layer of software in between them to actually make some of these things work together. But SIP allows you to remove CTI over time. It allows you to take elements of your business process and do two things. One, in some cases, eliminate them, but certainly reduce the latency in them. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. So behind every single one of those is a conversation. And it might be something that you are more or less interested in. But the big things are the drive towards SIP, because it's a multimedia-based core that drives your UC and your CC in a different way. And the spin-off effect of what it allows you to do to the CTI that you might have deployed in your organizations. How are we going to measure whether we've been successful? We're going to measure this journey using these 5 metrics. At the end of this journey, at the end of our plan, can I stand here and concretely demonstrate to you that we've shown you a way that you can grow top-line revenue, your employees are more productive, your business is more agile, you've completely rethought customer service, and as we can see from the very beginning here, can we affect a cost-saving element to this that allows us to take some of the money that we save and reinvest in other parts of the journey? And as we stand here at the consolidation phase, the only thing that I can demonstrably say we've affected is the cost element. I don't think it's fair to say that we've changed anything else yet. But the money we save, we're going to reinvest. And we're going to reinvest in the second stage of the journey, what we call integration. Here we're doing 2 things fundamentally. We are changing the productivity tools of your employees. We're maybe replacing hard phones with soft phones with tablet-based telephony, UC, messaging, presence, video, because we have the capability in the tablet to do all of this, and it might be that we replace a hard phone with a tablet or a smartphone type device. So we're going to change the tools that we give our users and our employees. Secondly, we're going to look at business process, latency, and we're going to try and figure out a way of reducing it. My example is, at Avaya, if I want to purchase anything, I go onto a system which we have based around Ariba. We make a series of requests, we do some stuff. It's nowhere near as complex as what Joe described, but it's not far away. And the latency in the system is email. To get approval to make the purchase, my email goes to my manager. If my manager is not able to access email, the latency in the purchase process is dictated solely by the length of time it takes him to respond and say no, right, which is usually what happens. So I have to go back and get the cheaper one, then I get a yes. But the latency is significant. If the system knew that my manager was on his mobile and I could send him an SMS with a Y/N preference in it, I can significantly reduce the latency in the system because my manager, like all human beings, picks up their phone when you feel it buzz in your pocket or when you hear the little SMS ring go, right? It's one of the undisputable laws of human nature is that regardless of what you're doing, when you hear an SMS on your phone, you stop and you go to your phone. All right, the number of minutes wasted on audio conference calls because people can't be seen and are texting, huge. Right? But it's what we all do. So I can use it to my advantage because I can take latency out of the system because I'm aware, the system is aware that my line manager is online on his mobile, and that is the preferred messaging route. But that's machine to machine figuring it out. So here we're looking at ways of taking that process and reducing the latency in it before we ultimately look at how we remove it completely. Bring your own device. We've talked about changing productivity tools for users. Here's a great example of how we do that. We start to introduce that maybe as a trial in our organizations. And as we move through, if you have electronic commerce linked to business process and you're serving customers, I'd suggest to you at this part of the process you can actually start to generate top-line revenue. You've certainly rethinking productivity because of the tool sets that you're making available to your users. Your users and your business is more agile. You're starting to rethink customer satisfaction, but you've not got there yet. And there might be an element of cost saving. So this is a change that the user in our organization sees because we physically change the environment that we give them to work in every day. we finally get to the point on our journey that everybody wants to be in, the point where you can stand up and say that you're an innovative organization, and you can demonstrate to your shareholders, to your board, whomever is the constituency that matters, that you're an innovative organization. And I'd suggest innovation actually has two dimensions to it. There's innovation which drives top-line growth, and there's innovation which saves money. And we're going to start by looking at innovation which drives top-line growth in organizations. Those, we think, are the significant trends between now and 2017 that will drive successful organizations. And the three that you need to worry about the most, in our opinion, are how you tie together near-time real business analytics, the way in which you serve a customer, and your interface into social media. And let me pick on each of those three things just briefly. Near real-time business analytics, chances are you've all got mobiles, they're all turned on. They might be on silent mode, but you're transmitting. A system somewhere knows that you've been stationary for the past 60 minutes. It can infer some business logic from the fact that you've not moved for 60 minutes. When you do start to move, based on GPS or cell tower location, I can figure out your speed, and if you're walking, and you're a retailer, and you're a coffee retailer, and you're 50 meters away from my coffee shop, you might like to generate a message which you deliver to me to let me know that you've got a special on chai lattes today. My phone buzzes. What do? As a human reaction, oh, this coffee chain, which I'm approaching because I'm walking, is making an offer for this particular brand of coffee. I can infer some actions based on my ability to gather lots of little pieces of information. Lots and lots and lots of pieces of information. And the science around how you analyze that and do the analytics on it to drive a business decision is a science that is still relatively young, but which we're starting to see significant organizations investing time and money in to figure out how you take data from the public cloud, the private cloud, and you bring these things together to infer something that will force your business to make a decision based on that. How are you going to serve that? I'd suggest you in 2017 you'll serve it as an app, because these devices, their ubiquity, I think, is already pretty strong. It will be even stronger. We can debate the interface all day long, but the app looks like the way in which you'll deliver the experience. The app is your IVR. Your IVRs today are probably DTMF-based, and they're serial in nature. Press 1 for this, press 3 for that, press 9 for the other. An IVR delivered on a smartphone is parallel, because you can display multiple choices at once, and it's much richer in media, because I can embed video, I can embed web links, I can embed live chat, I can embed a whole number of things in the smartphone app which I can't do on a DTMF-based system. So the app looks like the way in which you'll deliver a parallel customer service experience into customers who carry these things with them all the time. And your interfaces into social media, you might not like Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, or the next one, or the one that comes after that. They might be really scary worlds for you to be getting engaged in, but the thing you start to need to do now is just listen. Plug yourselves in and listen for your part of this journey. What are your customers saying about you in real time in these social media spaces? Analyze the data, generate the system and the process that gives you the feedback. That's how you start the journey with social media, and the way in which this is a platform, we think, not only for ourselves, but a generation of people coming up behind us for whom it's just normal everyday life. So we need to start to figure out the social media piece, and I'd suggest we start by just listening. Just plug ourselves in and listen to what our customers are saying about us in real time. Collaboration across companies. You might outsource your logistics to UPS, to FedEx, to any one of a number of these companies. Why don't those employees of those organizations have access to the same collaboration tools that your employees do? You might not trust the folks in FedEx and UPS. You might want to put some sort of blacklist, whitelist in place. The cloud service provider of the future will provide that function for you and will allow you to differentiate between trusted suppliers whom you share a lot of data with and perhaps less trusted suppliers whom are still important to you but don't operate within the same level of integration within your organization. So we certainly see silos within organizations breaking down, and we certainly see the idea that collaboration across businesses will become key. Federating video into the experience, think of video as this. What is the optimum way to put your subject matter expert in front of a customer? That will be a video experience. A video experience that's delivered because the customer has a video-capable device that they're carrying with them. It isn't a branch that they go to or a room that they go to. It's a device that they carry. So if you can deliver a video experience onto that device and your agent happened to have the latest Twitter feeds, the Facebook posts, the emails, the forms that were filled in electronically, if your agent has access to that information and is having a video conversation with a potential customer, I would suggest to you that that gives you the greatest propensity to buy if you've got video engaged in the conversation. So federated video to us is how do you put your subject matter expert in front of a customer? No doubt when you look at things that help you save money, then I'd also suggest some of these technologies are very, very similar. The use of video within your own organization, the way in which it increases collaboration, it actually gets people to concentrate on calls as opposed to doing whatever the hell they want on an audio bridge because they've figured out what the mute button is. You can't mute video. It's kind of hard, right? When you've stepped away from the camera, people do tend to notice. So again, there's a cultural or transformational way in which people attend meetings when you're using video for part of that experience. A very large US banking organization uses video and they have it embedded into their travel system. So executives book a trip as if they're about to take a trip. They book the hotel room, except they do the meeting by video. And at the end of every month, they put in all of the lifts, the amount of money that the organization saved because internal meetings were done by video rather than by people stepping on airplanes and spending the night in hotels. So there's a very real way that you can translate the savings that video delivers and actually make it very public and displayable in your companies, even by the case of putting up, A4 posters in lifts. But it has the effect of getting more people to use video. So video internally and video externally becomes, in our opinion, very important. The virtualized network that Joe touched on, he's absolutely right. Virtualized servers and applications play havoc with traditional IP networks. IP networks were architected for north-south transactions. I'm a contact center agent. I've got to get a screen pop. I'm receiving email. What you're doing is you're looking north to south into your databases to pull up that data. When you're moving data center applications across data centers, when you're doing backups, when you're triangulating near real-time business analytics, that's east-west. It's not north-south. Right? So there's a huge problem when you try to get a north-south architecture to figure out how to deliver east-west networking, and I'm going to touch on that more again in a second. In 2017, the final point I'd like to make is this. Today, we all subscribe to things that we're interested in. The thing about Facebook and Twitter, and well, Twitter in particular, is you follow somebody because you're interested in their opinion. It's not just some blind thing you do. You're interested genuinely in what that opinion of that individual is. In 2017, the enterprise will subscribe to the individual. Because by permissions-based and because of the things that we know, I, as the individual, will be on the receiving end of the subscription. I won't follow, the organizations will follow me. It might be a government organization, a retail organization. I think the parallels can be drawn in a number of different industries, but you need to completely flip your customer service model when the organization subscribes to the individual and not the other way around. And this is one of the fundamental shifts that we see happening as we build out our technology roadmap to 2017. So at the end of it all, can I demonstrate that we've affected positively all of those 5 areas? Have I shown you techniques for increasing top-line revenue? Have I shown you ways that you change the productivity of your individuals, the agility of your business? You fundamentally rethought customer service, and you started the journey from the notion that I could save some money and actually use the investment to start building out my route to innovation, okay? As a vendor, there are a number of things that we would like you obviously to take away, hopefully the notion of consolidation, integration, and innovation. But from an Avaya perspective, we have a consolidation technology called Aura. This is our SIP-based core. This is what allows you to bring your UC and your CC together on an on-premise or a virtualized platform and deliver real-time telephony and video and contact center solutions using a common suite of technology based on a VMware-based, actually, virtualized environment. Our integration layer is something called ACE. This is an API. It's a toolkit. It basically allows you to reach northbound into applications. It might be Microsoft. It might be Siebel. It might be SAP. It might be PeopleSoft. but to extract data from that northbound interface and push it into a SIP-based infrastructure because you're trying to remove latency from the process, or in some cases you're trying to eliminate the need to have a band-aid called CTI between a system that originated on a telephone switch and which is now sitting on an IP network. And we don't think it's fair to ask you to innovate if we hadn't. So as a vendor, a number of things that we've done over the past 12 to 18 months that are highly innovative in different parts of the industry. Avaya Live Engage is a virtual world. You enter it via a browser with a headset and a microphone. Yet you could recreate this entire auditorium. You could have me presenting in a video window. We could have the PowerPoint. You could have a number of 6 degrees banners up on the wall here that you could interact with, all virtually in a virtual environment. And for those of you who are starting to figure out how you want to serve customers virtually, because God knows there's enough Xbox 360s, PS3s, and PS2s out there that suggest there's a generation of people behind us for whom this is just normal. Yes, they can differentiate between a virtual world and a real world, but why should you differentiate the experience? So virtual worlds and Avaya Live Engage might be your toe into the water of how you start to look at serving a customer virtually, serving your own internal audience virtually, highly innovative, highly bespoke, completely customizable based on the environments and the worlds that you wish to create. Vena is our networking architecture. It uses a technology called shortest path bridging, which is this marriage of layer 2 and layer 3 that allows you to very quickly, in virtual environments, spin up machines but move applications across blades, regardless of whether the blade is in the same rack or 1,000 kilometers away in a different data center. It's an east-west solution to how you fix that particular problem. And then finally, the Flare experience. 18 months ago, this radically changed the way you thought about us as a telephony vendor, because we didn't come to you with a new 12-button push phone. We came to you with a software application running on an Android tablet. And that software application now runs on iPads, smartphones from both Google and Apple. And as that tablet world settles down, our mission is to make the software application available on the tablet or smartphone device of your choice. So it radically rethought the way that we did UC, messaging, presence, video, how you integrate all of that when the device is something you carry with you rather than something that you go to. So as we build out to 2017, the cloud discussion, your rack, my rack, 6 degrees rack, somebody else's rack, I'm not sure that's completely the whole argument, because your customers live in the public cloud and will increasingly live in the public cloud. There are public cloud services not yet invented that will pop up next year and the year after, to which we will subscribe in our tens of millions. And they will solve problems and they will identify niches that currently we didn't even think we had a problem or a niche for. But they'll be there. Your mission will be to integrate with them. And your innovation agenda needs to make sure that you blur the line between what is going on in the public and what is going on in your private clouds. And your ability to serve and transact and analyze and sell will be very much driven by the decisions that you start to make now, the technology investments that you make now as you build out to what we think this world in 2017 will look like. As a vendor, we have a global services organization which is the brand guarantee. It's the people who stand shoulder to shoulder with the folks at 6 degrees to help you design, plan, maintain, install, train, all of the things that you might expect a vendor to traditionally do in this industry. And we go to market exclusively through a channel organization of whom 6 Degree in the UK is a very significant channel partner for us. Now, before I finish, I'm just going to go put up one last slide. Based on everything that we've talked about, all the things that we've said, the question I would leave you with is this. On your own journeys, where are you currently? If you had to analyze where you think you are on your journey to 2017, where would you put yourselves? And is that a conversation that perhaps a 6 Degrees and ourselves can have with you to further your own journey up that stack? Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your time and attention. Enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you.